Most people are not lazy. They're exhausted. Pause for a moment and let that sink in. Really let it sit with you. So why does nothing in their life actually change? Why do they wake up year after year in the same situation, with the same problems, feeling the same way? Think about it. Really think about it. Because what I'm about to tell you might make you uncomfortable, but it's something you desperately need to hear. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Being busy has become the most respectable thing you can be in modern society. It's become a status symbol. When someone asks how you're doing, you don't say good or peaceful or content. You say busy with this strange sense of pride in your voice. Being busy means you're needed. Being busy means you matter. Being busy means you're important enough that people depend on you. Being busy is proof that you're trying, that you're hustling, that you're grinding, that you're not one of those lazy people sitting around doing nothing. Society has taught us to worship busyness like it's a religion. We praise the person who works 80 hours a week and sacrifices their health. We admire the entrepreneur who barely sleeps and runs on coffee and ambition. We celebrate exhaustion as if it's a badge of honor, as if destroying yourself for your work is somehow noble. And somewhere in all of this noise, in all of this chaos, we've confused being busy with being successful. We've confused motion with progress. We've confused exhaustion with achievement. Being busy feels like progress, even when it produces absolutely nothing. But here's the thing that nobody wants to admit because it's too uncomfortable. Movement is not the same thing as direction. Motion is not the same as progress. You can be in motion all day long, running from task to task, meeting to meeting, email to email, and still end up exactly where you started. Think about your own life for a second. Be honest with yourself. How many hours do you spend every single day answering emails that didn't need to be emails? Messages that could have been a simple text or a 2-minute phone call? How many meetings do you sit through where nothing actually gets decided, where everyone talks in circles, where the same issues get discussed over and over without any real solutions? How many tasks do you complete that just create more tasks for tomorrow? You check off one item on your to-do list and 3 more appear. You finish one project and 2 more land on your desk. You're moving constantly, you're busy constantly, but are you actually going anywhere? Or are you just running in place? You can move all day and still stay in the same exact place. And here's the scariest part that most people never confront. Busy people feel honest about their situation. They feel morally justified. When you're busy, you don't have to feel guilty about not achieving your big goals. You don't have to feel bad about not making real progress. You can look yourself in the mirror at the end of another exhausting day and say, at least I'm trying. You can tell your family, I'm working on it. I just need more time. You can post on social media about your grind, about your hustle, about how hard you're working, and get instant validation from other busy people who are also going nowhere. Busyness protects your ego. It shields you from the harsh reality that maybe, just maybe, you're not actually building anything. It gives you something concrete to point to when someone asks why you haven't made progress toward your dreams. I've been so busy becomes the perfect excuse, the perfect shield, the perfect defense mechanism. Because how can anyone criticize someone who's working so hard? How can anyone question someone who's clearly exhausted from all their effort? Busyness is the most socially accepted excuse for failure. Now let me tell you something that's going to make you angry, something that might make you defensive. The systems you exist in absolutely love busy people. They thrive on busy people. Your company doesn't actually reward outcomes. It rewards activity. It rewards the appearance of work. Your boss doesn't care that you solved a major problem in 2 hours of focused, deep thinking. They care that you looked busy for 8 hours. They care that you were sitting at your desk, that you were in the office, that you appeared to be working. Schools don't reward actual thinking or genuine learning. They reward completing assignments on time. It doesn't matter if you actually understood the material. It doesn't matter if you learned something that will change your life. It matters that you turned in your homework, that you showed up to class, that you followed the rules. Society has built an entire structure, an entire system around keeping you busy because busy people are easy to control. Busy people don't ask dangerous questions. Busy people don't challenge the status quo. Busy people don't have time to step back and wonder if the whole game is rigged. Busy people don't disrupt systems. They maintain them. They keep them running. You're not busy because you're successful. You're busy because you're useful to a system that needs you distracted. You're busy because you're controllable. Let me ask you something directly, and I want you to really sit with these questions. Don't just hear them and move on. Actually stop and think about your honest answers. Do you end your days feeling physically tired but emotionally unsatisfied? Do you feel guilty when you're doing nothing, even when your body and mind desperately need rest? Do you confuse exhaustion with achievement, as if being tired means you accomplished something meaningful? Do you measure your self-worth by how packed your calendar is? Do you feel anxious when you have free time? Do you immediately fill empty spaces in your schedule because silence feels uncomfortable? Here's the uncomfortable truth you've been avoiding, the truth you've been running from by staying busy. If you stopped being busy tomorrow, if all your tasks disappeared, you might notice that nothing is actually moving forward in any meaningful direction. The busyness was just covering up the fact that you don't have a real direction. It was just noise hiding the silence of not knowing where you're actually going. And here's exactly why this happens. Why smart, capable people get trapped in this cycle. Thinking doesn't look like work. When you're sitting quietly in a chair, contemplating a major decision, planning your next strategic move, considering different paths forward, weighing options, you look like you're doing absolutely nothing. There's no visible effort. There's no sweat on your forehead. There's no immediate result you can screenshot and show someone. There's no task you can check off a list. And in a world that values constant motion, constant visible activity, thinking feels lazy. Thinking feels unproductive. Thinking feels almost shameful in a culture that's completely addicted to motion. So instead of taking a full day to think deeply about where you're actually going with your life, to question whether you're on the right path, to make hard decisions about what actually matters, you fill that day with busy work. You answer 100 emails that didn't really need answers. You attend meetings that could have been skipped. You complete tasks that feel productive but don't move you forward. Because at least then you can tell yourself you did something. At least then you can point to a full calendar and feel like your day mattered. But let's go even deeper because this is where it gets really uncomfortable, where it gets painfully honest. Busyness isn't just about productivity. It's not just about trying to get things done. It's about avoidance. It's about hiding. When you're busy, you don't have to make hard decisions. When you're constantly in motion, bouncing from one thing to the next, you don't have to sit with deep uncertainty. When your calendar is completely packed with meetings and tasks and obligations, you don't have to face the terrifying possibility that you might be on the wrong path entirely, that you might be climbing a ladder that's leaning against the wrong wall, that you might be working really hard toward a destination you don't actually want to reach. Busyness is a shield. It's armor. It protects you from risk, because risk requires stillness to evaluate. It protects you from failure, because failure only happens when you commit to something specific. It protects you from having to actually choose a direction, because choosing means you might choose wrong. Choosing means you have to say no to other options. Choosing means commitment. And choosing wrong means you might fail publicly. And failure is absolutely terrifying to most people. So instead of choosing, instead of committing, instead of taking a real risk, you stay busy. You keep moving. You keep your head down. You avoid making the days. Big, scary, life-changing decisions by drowning yourself in hundreds of small, safe, meaningless ones. Busyness keeps you occupied so you don't have to choose. Now let's talk about something most people never understand: the difference between effort and leverage. Most busy people are working in a completely linear way. They trade hours directly for dollars. They trade effort directly for small, incremental results. They repeat the same tasks over and over and over, day after day, expecting somehow that more of the same will create different outcomes. But real progress doesn't come from repetition. Real progress doesn't come from doing more of what's not working. Progress comes from leverage. It comes from finding the one strategic thing that creates compounding returns. It comes from making decisions that multiply your results instead of just adding to them slightly. Busy people repeat effort endlessly. People who make real progress create leverage. Think carefully about the difference. You can spend 10 hours every single day answering customer service emails one by one, working hard, staying busy, feeling productive. Or you can spend 2 hours building a system, creating a template, training someone else, or automating the process so those emails get answered without you. Both require effort, both require work, but only one creates leverage. Only one frees up your time for more important decisions. Only one compounds. Let me paint you a detailed picture so you can see exactly what I mean. Imagine two people starting from the same place. Both are smart, both work hard, both are exhausted at the end of every day, both are incredibly busy. Person A wakes up every morning and immediately dives into their to-do list. They're productive, they're efficient, they get things done. They check off task after task after task. But here's what they don't notice. Every single night when they go to bed, their to-do list is the exact same length it was that morning. Sometimes it's even longer, because new tasks just keep appearing. New emails, new requests, new emergencies. They're on a treadmill moving at full speed, but going absolutely nowhere. Person B spends their time completely differently. They might actually look less busy to an outside observer. They might complete fewer tasks in a day, but the tasks they do complete eliminate future work. They build systems that handle repetitive problems. They make strategic decisions that prevent issues from appearing in the first place. They think carefully before they act. They say no to things that don't align with their direction. They spend time on activities that compound. Fast forward 5 years. Person A is still busy, still exhausted, still on the same treadmill, still dealing with the same types of problems. Person B has freedom, has clarity, has built something that works without them. Same starting point, same amount of effort and energy invested, completely different outcomes. Same effort, totally different direction. Here's the truth that nobody wants to say out loud because it's too confronting. Most people are busy because standing still with clarity feels infinitely scarier than moving without any purpose. Read that sentence again slowly. It's psychologically easier to stay in constant motion than to stop and realize you don't actually know where you're going. It's easier to fill every single moment of your day with meaningless tasks than to confront the terrifying possibility that your entire approach to life might be fundamentally wrong. Busyness feels safe. It feels comfortable. It feels like you're doing something. Direction feels dangerous. Direction feels vulnerable. Direction feels like you're putting yourself out there to potentially fail. Because real direction requires commitment. Direction requires choosing one path and saying no to all the others. Direction requires the very real possibility of public failure. And our brains are biologically wired to avoid danger, to seek safety, even when that danger is just the emotional discomfort of clarity and commitment. I need you to understand something fundamental here. This entire conversation isn't about working harder. It's not about productivity hacks or time management tips or morning routines or any of that surface-level stuff. This is about something much, much deeper. This is about the story you tell yourself every single day. The story that says busyness equals worth. The story that says exhaustion equals effort. The story that says if you're not constantly moving and doing and producing, then you're failing. That story is a complete lie. But it's a comfortable lie. It's a lie that millions of people believe because it protects them from having to face much harder, much scarier questions. Questions like, what do I actually want from my life? Questions like, am I building something genuinely meaningful, or am I just staying occupied until I die? Questions like, if I removed all the busy work, all the noise, all the distractions, what would actually be left of my life? Questions like, who would I be if I wasn't busy? The really tragic part is that many people will never, ever ask themselves these questions. They'll stay busy for their entire lives. Decades will pass. They'll retire one day, sit down in a quiet house, and suddenly wonder where all the time went. They'll look back over 50 years and see nothing but motion, constant motion, but no real movement toward anything meaningful, no real progress toward a life they actually wanted. And here's the really hard part that nobody wants to accept. They'll never admit it was a choice. Because admitting it was a choice means accepting full responsibility for wasted time. It's psychologically easier to blame external factors, to blame the system, to blame the economy, to blame their boss, to blame their circumstances, to say, I had no choice, I had to stay busy to survive. But deep down, if they're really honest, truth is different. Busyness was a choice. It was a choice to avoid the discomfort of clarity. It was a choice to avoid the risk of commitment. It was a choice to stay comfortable in meaningless motion rather than uncomfortable in purposeful direction. Let me be absolutely clear about something, because I don't want you to misunderstand. I'm not telling you to stop working. I'm not telling you to be lazy or to stop trying or to give up on your goals. I'm telling you that there's a fundamental difference between being busy and actually building something meaningful. There's a difference between motion and progress. There's a difference between filling time and using time strategically. And most people never learn that critical difference because they never stop moving long enough to see it clearly. They're too close to the chaos to see the pattern. Busy lives look full from the outside. They look impressive. They look important. Directional lives often look empty at first. They look like you're doing less, like you're not hustling hard enough. Because direction requires brutal elimination. It requires saying no to most things so you can say yes to the right things. It requires empty space to think clearly, to plan strategically, to adjust course when needed. And empty space absolutely terrifies most people in modern society. Think carefully about your own life right now. Be painfully honest with yourself. If someone gave you a completely free day tomorrow, no obligations whatsoever, no tasks hanging over you, no meetings on your calendar, no emails you had to answer, what would you actually do? Would you feel relieved and peaceful, or would you feel anxious and uncomfortable? Would you know exactly what important thing to work on, or would you feel completely lost without your usual distractions? For most busy people, the answer is deeply uncomfortable, because removing all the busyness reveals the complete lack of real direction underneath, and that revelation is absolutely terrifying. So what do? They fill the space immediately, before the discomfort can really sink in. They find more tasks, they create more obligations, they check their email obsessively, they stay busy. Not because they actually need to, not because those tasks matter, but because the alternative, which is facing the vast emptiness of not knowing where they're really going, is too scary to confront. Here's exactly what I want you to take away from everything I've said. Busyness is not a virtue. It's not something to be proud of. Exhaustion is not a medal. It's not proof that you worked hard on what matters. Motion is not progress. Movement is not direction. You can be the absolute hardest working person in every room you enter and still be going nowhere meaningful. You can be busy every single day for years and still end up 5 years from now in the exact same place, with the same problems, feeling the same way. Because being busy without clear direction is just expensive distraction. It costs you the most valuable things you have. It costs you time that you can never get back. It costs you energy that could have built something real. It costs you years of your one finite life. And unlike money, unlike opportunities, unlike almost anything else, you cannot earn those back. Once that time is gone, it's gone forever. So let me leave you with one final thought. One question that you need to sit with in silence. A question that will reveal everything about where you